Hello and welcome to my 101 guide to Floowandereeze. I'm Toad and I've been addicted to this deck since I saw the spoiler of the Penguin. I brought this deck to many competitive and local scenes, so I hope my experience of this deck rubs off on you guys in this video. I'm recording this as of the release of Darkwing Blast, so that is the form I will be basing this strategy on. This video will consist of an overview of all the Floowandereeze cards, cards that are used with the decks, example deck lists ranging from beginner budget to competitive expensive, combo lines, and how to play against the deck. Parts of this video are going to be geared towards newer players of Yu-Gi-Oh! So if you're an advanced player, I've made some timestamps so you may skip past them rather than me going over every card, then you don't need me to. So, let's get flying. First, let's go over the goals of the deck. The Floowandereeze strategy is used to lock your opponent out of the game by putting up strong floodgates and putting your opponents in undesirable situations while constantly recurring your resources. This is a very strong deck for beginner and advanced players. Let's get into how this is achieved by going over all the cards. First, I would like to go over the global effects that all the level 1 monsters have. The first effect is, if this face-up card would leave the field, banish it instead. The second effect is, if a winged beast monster is normal summoned to your field while this card is banished, you can add this card to your hand. You also cannot use any of their effects the same turn you special summon a monster. These effects play very pivotal roles in this archetype, as you will see later in the combo lines. So now, let's get to the first card. Robina here is our star player and enabler, one of our best normal summons. Let's go over Robina's effect. If this card is normal summoned, you can add one level 4 or lower winged beast monster from your deck to your hand. Then, immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one winged beast monster. I would like to put emphasis on the fact that you can add any level 4 or lower winged beast monster. There's a large selection of targets that may be selected for this search. But also, you can normal summon the monster you just added immediately after, or any other winged beast in your hand. A 10 out of 10 card, a required 3 of in any Floowandereeze deck. Eglen is our number 2 player. He can be a decent starter depending on your hand. Here's Eglen's effect. If this card is normal summoned, you can add one level 7 or higher winged beast monster from your deck to your hand. Then, immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one winged beast monster. Again, I'd like to emphasize the fact that we can add any level 7 or higher winged beast. That opens up a bunch of tech cards that you will see later in the video, but mainly it'll be grabbing the boss monsters of the deck. Also a required 3 of in any Floowandereeze deck. Stri is part 1 of our 2-part grind game. Sometimes a blowout card if it can be resolved every turn. Here's Stri's effect. If this card is normal summoned, you can target one card in either graveyard, banish it, then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one winged beast monster. Graveyard removal for some decks can be quite detrimental. This also recycles our flow cards into the banish zone, and the next card will show you why we would do that. This card will run at a 1 or 2 in a deck. Toccan is the other piece of our grind package. The moment your opponent thinks we're out of resources and power cards, this bird gets it back. Here's Toccan's effect. If this card is normal summoned, you can target one of your banished Floowandereeze cards. Add it to your hand, then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one winged beast monster. He can get back field spells, traps, monsters, whatever you need. The number of spinning resources this deck generates is nuts. And this is the bird that can recycle them for us. I recommend playing him at 1 or 2. Empen is our main boss bird of the deck. This card has 3 crazy effects. If this card is tribute summoned, you can add one Floowandereeze spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one monster. While this tribute summon card is in the monster zone, your opponent cannot activate the effects of special summon monsters they control in attack position. Once per battle, during damage calculation, if this card battles an opponent's monster, quick effect, you can banish one card from your hand. That opponent's monster's current attack and defense become halved until the end of this turn. Adding a Floowandereeze spell or trap is huge, as it will allow you to also play on your opponent's turn. I would also like to note the additional normal text that says normal summon one monster, not just a winged beast. That opens up a lot of different options in deck building. Empen is also a Mystic Mine for monsters special summoned in attack position. Crazy. If your opponent doesn't play around this card, they lose. Empen is king. Empen can be played at 1 or 2 in any Floowandereeze deck. Snowl is the other Floowandereeze boss monster. He can be very effective in some situations. Here are Snowl's effects. Once per turn, while you control this tribute summon card, you can conduct up to 3 normal summons or sets this turn, not just 1. While this tribute summon card is in the monster zone, if your monster attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. Once per opponent's turn, quick effect, you can banish 1 card from your hand, change all special summon monsters your opponent controls to face down defense position. On paper, Snowl sounds amazing, but he is a little overkill on the normals. Not too often will we need to resolve 3 normals in a turn. Currently this format, Snowl is not the greatest, and there are better options for boss birds. If you do want to give Snowl a try, I'd stick to just 1 copy in the deck. Moving on to the spells, we'll go over the field spell of the deck, Magnificent Map. Map is another bread and butter piece to the archetype. Here are the effects. During your main phase, you can reveal 1 level 1 Floowandereeze monster in your hand and banish 1 Floowandereeze card with a different name from your deck. Then, immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon the revealed monster. If your opponent normal summons a monster, immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon 1 Floowandereeze monster. Map essentially gives you a free normal and a bird banished. An absolute dream for the birds, as it sets up a chain block for you in your first normal. The other effect is even better. If your opponent normal summons, you normal summon. 3 copies is mandatory in a deck. Unexplored Winds is Floowandereeze's most broken removal card. Here are the 2 effects of this card. You can conduct tribute summons that require 2 tributes by sending 1 monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls to the graveyard instead of tributing. It is still treated as a tribute summon. During your main phase, you can reveal up to 2 winged beast monsters in your hand, place them on the bottom of your deck in any order, then draw cards equal to the number of cards placed. Did someone say a card that outs untargetable targets? Yes. Did someone also say a card that has the potential to unbrick your hand from all the boss monsters you just drew? Yes. This card is great for so many reasons, but the main reason is the first effect. Spot removal for a tribute summon, something we do often. Also, very easily searchable off the Empen. I'd say 1 to 2 copies in any deck. The Advent of Adventure is a crazy going first card, allowing you to dodge imperms, failures, and other targeted negations. But not only does it dodge it, it punishes your opponent by also searching. Here's the effect. Banish 1 winged beast monster from your hand or face-up field. Add 1 Floowandereeze monster or Floowandereeze field spell from your deck to your hand, then gain 500 life points. This crazy card is the replacement that came for when everyone was playing Book of Moon. But you could also just play both. How does it dodge, you ask? The banish from hand or field is cost, so targeted negation loses target. Also, it can be a great card when playing into time in the round. I would run 3 copies in this deck. The Dreaming Town is a standard search target from Empen on turn 1 against a blind deck. Here are the effects. During the main phase, immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon 1 level 4 or lower winged beast monster. If you tribute summon a level 7 or higher monster while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card, change all monsters your opponent controls to face down defense position. Dreaming Town enables you to play on your opponent's turn, very similar to how Map does, but the trap allows you to normal whenever you want. The second effect protects our monsters from being battled or from the opponent using them for using materials for the extra deck. A very powerful card that can be played at 1 to 2 copies in a deck. The Scary Sea is the counter trap of the deck. To some decks, it can be a blowout if it resolves. Let's see the effect. When your opponent would special summon a monster, while you control a face-up tribute summon monster and no special summon monsters, negate the summon. And if you do, return that monster to the hand. Also, for the rest of this turn, your opponent cannot special summon and can conduct up to 3 normal summons or sets this turn, not just 1. This card is a searchable Solemn Warning and locks your opponent from special summoning, but it gives them 3 normals for the turn. Some decks just can't get around dealing with this card. This card can be played at 0 or 1 in the side deck. Now I'm going to quickly list off some really good out of archetype cards for Floowandereeze and how they benefit from using them within the strategy. Cards like Dimension Shifter, Macrocosmos, Dimensional Fissure. The deck doesn't really care about things being banished. In fact, it helps us. Makes us skip a step from the Stri. We could just go straight to the Toccan to start adding back our Floowandereeze resources. And most likely our opponent won't be able to play through it. DD Crow is a searchable hand trap for graveyard removal. Gold Sarcophagus. It's a half starter for the deck. It sets up a chain block for your first normal summon. Rise of the Mega Monarch makes it to where we're able to Yada lock our opponent and force them to draw cards they don't want, as well as remove cards from the field so we can swing in for game. Miss Valley Apex Avian, a searchable boss monster that is a not once per turn Omni Negate that returns to your hand. Then you can just summon it out again. Very powerful. Book of Moon, if you want to double up on the Empen Veiler dodges, you can play this card as well. It's also very good for going second. Crossout Designator can be used to negate hand traps. Glyph the Phantom Bird, spot removal for spell and trap. It isn't too bad. I wouldn't recommend running it, but if you're balling on a budget, I would consider it. Barrier Statue of the Stormwind, part of our bread and butter turn 1 combo, ending on Empen Barrier Statue. The Nadir Servant Dogmatica package seems okay. Shreg lets you add a starter. Fairjet has a potential unbrick. Inns can destroy a card. Ecclesia can be normaled off the Empen to add punishment to generate more interaction. It's also really good ash bait. Triple Tactics talent is okay going first or second. If they ash your first normal, you can rip the starter out of their hand or whatever other interruption they have. Set rotation with other field spells. Zombie World is running rampant at this current in time, so having another field spell like Mystic Mine in the deck with set rotation gets that pesky Zombie World off the field. The pot cards, Prosperity, Extravagance, Duality. This deck suffers from being inconsistent on their draws, so the pot cards are required in this deck. Called by the Grave lets your normals resolve from Ash Veiler. Also, lets us not get hit by a Drolin Lockbird on turn 1. Terraforming is another way to get our field spell to our hand. Harpy's Featherstorm is a powerhouse of a card that just ruins your opponent's turn. Harpy Dancer is a weird tribute wind monster to normal summon another wind. Very interesting card. Harpy Harpist is a budget going second bounce card. It's not too shabby. Where Art Thou lets you add a level 1 if you control a level 1. Icarus Attack is a trap that destroys a card by tributing a wind monster. And the Simorg Bird of Perfection Elbors generates additional chain blocks and gets us the Elbors to our hand so we can get even another normal. Starting off the deck list, this is my personal list that I first made when I was building the deck. This list I actually ended up bringing to a tournament and got first out of 20 very competitive people at a private box tournament. I did not have the Rise at the time, but that just goes to show that you didn't really need him then. I wasn't very sure what to side at the time, but I knew my locals were very Phantom Knight heavy, so I ended up siding the band played on, and it ended up working wonders for me. Dark Blue No More also won me a match or two. This list is a very standard Floowandereeze list, a very popular one that you probably see a lot of people playing competitively. It's really kept to the basics and covers most bases. Starting and expanding off this list would be an awesome beginning. However, it is not very cheap. This list is a much more budget option. It still hits most of the bases without the expensive power cards. Still an extremely viable option for local competitive play at the sacrifice of these power cards, however. This list is currently what I'm playing right now in the real world. I recently just went to a tournament this last weekend and ended up getting 4-1 for a mat. It's a very competitive option. So far I've seen a lot of success with this build, and I don't really have any complaints. Maybe taking the BIRBS out of the side for something else, a better going second card. Here's the Flowmatika List. The deck loses some push with no dimension shifter, but it does add additional interaction. Also not a cheat option, and is still considered viable. As far as deck lists go, at the end of the day, you should play what is best for your local scene, and especially if you only really play around your area. I would not copy these lists verbatim. These are just examples. Before we get into the combo lines, I really want to stress how important it is for Floowandereeze to be chain blocking. Do note while I'm showing you these combos that I'm going to do my best to show you what chain blocking is and how to best perform these actions. The first combo I'd like to go over is just one Robina in hand. This is all you need, the best starter in the deck. First, what you do, you normal summon Robina. Use Robina's effect to search for a level 4 lower winged beast. Here we grab the Eglen. As Robina's effect resolves, we normal summon the Eglen. We do Eglen's effect, searching for a level 7 or higher winged beast. This will grab us the Empen, and then when this effect resolves, we can then normal summon. Banish these two for a tribute summon for Empen. Then we would do Empen's effect to search for a Floowandereeze spell or trap. We'd then chainlink to our Robina to chain block the Empen, protecting it from an Ash. So Robina returns to our hand, and then we search for the Dreaming Town trap. This is the very simple, just one card Robina combo. Now I'm going to show you the basic lock combo. One of the Floowandereeze's most strongest inboards on turn 1. This will require 2 cards, one Robina, one Eglen. There are many different variations of this if you do end up having the map, and I can show you that combo after this one. But for right now, we'll just use the Robina and the Eglen. To start off, we would normal summon the Robina, and then use the Robina's effect, searching a level 4 lower winged beast. Here, we would end up getting the barrier statue. We would then, on resolution, normal summon the Eglen, and then use the Eglen's effect, searching a level 7 or higher winged beast. Here, we would get the Empen. We then do the tribute summon, banishing these two to summon the Empen. Here we do the Empen chain 1, the Robina chain 2, chain blocking the Empen. Here we would then search with the Empen, grabbing the Dreaming Town. We would then normal summon the barrier statue. This is a really strong inboard that a lot of decks end up having a ton of trouble getting through. Also with the set Dreaming Town generating more interaction during your opponent's turn, very, very difficult for our opponent to get through this. This next combo is going to be an even better inboard than the last one, because we'll also be having the map on the field. So let's get into the combo. First, we would activate map. We would then use map's effect. We will reveal Robina from our hand. We would then banish the Eglen from the deck. then normal summon the Robina. Here, we can actually chain block our Robina with the Eglen. We'll do Robina chain 1, Eglen chain 2, protecting our Robina from being hit by an Ash. Eglen returns to the hand. Robina searches our barrier statue. We then normal summon the Eglen. We use the Eglen's effect, searching level 7 or higher, to grab the Empen. We then tribute summon, banishing these two to summon the Empen. Here we can chain block the Empen with Empen chain 1, Robina chain 2. Robina will return to our hand, and Empen will search us the Dreaming Town. We then would normal the barrier statue on the resolution of the Empen's effect. A much stronger combo than the last one, like I said. So if your opponent ends up normaling, you will have a lot of pluses there. Or if your opponent just ends up special summoning a bunch of stuff, like Sprite would do, we could then activate the Dreaming Town if they decide they don't want to activate the map. A lot of interaction to be had here. Again, another board that's really hard for a lot of decks to break right now. The next advanced combo I'd like to introduce is actually from Hanko off of TCG Player. Shoutouts to him, his articles are great and I do recommend giving them a read. I'll put a link to this article about this combo in the description below. So, let's get started with the combo. First, what we would do is activate the map. We would then use the map's effect, revealing the Robina, banishing the Eglen. Normal summon Robina, use Robina 1, Eglen 2. We'll add the Eglen to our hand. Robina will search out a Simorgh Bird of Perfection. You will have to play this package if you do want to do this combo. I do believe there are other variations of this combo you could do without them, but it's best to use it with these because then everything is getting chain block, and I'll show you how. Off of the resolution of Robina's effect, we're going to normal summon the Eglen. Here we'll do Eglen Chainlink 1, Bird of Perfection Chainlink 2 from hand to normal summon. Bird of Perfection gets normal summoned. Eglen will add our Empen. Here, we would then banish these two for a tribute summon to normal summon our Empen. Here, our chainlinks will be as follows. We'll do Empen chain 1, Bird of Perfection chain 2, then the Robina chain 3. And here, we would have to wait to see if our opponent does have any responses here. If not, we would then activate the Advent Calendar, banishing the Empen. Now we resolve our chains backwards. We do Advent Adventure. We'll be adding the Toccan to our hand. This will then go to grave. We will then resolve the Robina. Robina is returning to our hand. We would then resolve the Simorgh Bird of Perfection. We'll dump the other Bird of Perfection from our deck, then add Elbows to our hand. Then we resolve the Empen effect. Empen would then add the Dreaming Town. On the resolution of Empen's effect, we'd normal summon the Toccan. Toccan's effect will target the Empen in our banish zone to return to hand. Then on the resolution of the effect, we then tribute summon. Send the Bird of Perfection to the graveyard, banish the Toccan. We do Empen's effect once again. It is not once per turn. Then we chain to the Toccan. Toccan would then return to our hand, and then we'd add the second copy of our Dreaming Town. This is an extremely strong hand to have, or rather board. Some may argue that is maybe even better than the Wind Barrier statue, because you could just put the Wind Barrier statue up on your opponent's turn, especially since you have two Dreaming Towns. And if somehow, if they did end up stopping a normal summon, we did end up adding the Elbows, so we would get an additional normal summon. We do have two other cards in our hands, because we did just start with 3, so there's a lot of different variations that could be going on with this combo. But this is the general gist of how it's done. Again, I would go to Hanko Chow's article on TCG Player and review what he said. The next topic I'd like to talk to you about is perhaps a topic that not a ton of people that make these types of videos end up making because they want to make the deck look good. Maybe. But what I like to talk about is how to actually beat this strategy. So, first, we must have a basic understanding. To beat a deck, we must first have an understanding of the deck's goals and how to achieve them. And that goes for beating any deck in the format. FLOOWANDEREEZE's goal is to lock you out of the game via barrier statue and Empen, while spinning cards from the opponent's graveyard on top of their deck, so they end up getting really bad draws. How was this achieved? Through their first or second normal. Non-targeting negations hurt FLOOWANDEREEZE really bad. However, that doesn't mean targeting negation isn't useful. The gods don't always give the birds the adventure to dodge it. One swift imperm on a normal Robina could spell disaster for a bird player. But always anticipate the map and another bird in hand, because it does happen. If in a situation like this, where they didn't have the map out and they had normal summon the Robina, just wait. Hitting the Eglen from searching the Empen will be much better, as it keeps the main boss monster from hitting the field. On top of that, now that both the birds are stuck on the field, that could have been the only birds they had in their hand. So now their clapback will be painful, unless they draw another bird. Another really big thing that ends up beating the FLOOWANDEREEZE strategy is floodgates. Floodgates like Zombie World, Imperial Iron Wall, Lancia, Summon Limit. These are all extremely detrimental, generally make this deck unplayable. Other cards like Anti-Spell Fragrance, Droll on the first turn. Goes in match definitely hurts us. You will notice that with Robina and Stri, these are both water monsters, so if you can get us stuck into water monsters, that'll really suck for us. Another really good way to beat the FLOOWANDEREEZE strategy is if they brick. Bricking in the FLOOWANDEREEZE strategy is pretty standard. I actually went to this last regional, and maybe about 20 hands, about 15 of them were definitely not optimal hands, and I ended up losing 4 matches for that. I ended up going 4-4. But I would like to go over a conclusion, I guess, of the deck about how it'll perform in this format. I feel like it'll be generally the same. We'll be putting up the same boards and the same combos and the same old penguin barrier statue. And I think we'll be perfectly fine with this format. The bestials don't really do too much to us. Runic kinda hurts us a little bit, but also ends up plussing us when they banish our little birds from our deck. So it's hard to say. I'm thinking a deck like this, that has this type of lock, really can't be power crept. It'll be quite a while before there'll be another style deck like this that does what it does, and does it better though. So we'll just have to see in the future of where this deck goes. And then lastly, I'd like to give some shoutouts to the people that inspired me to make this video and helped with the information that I've gathered throughout my competitive, I guess, career with this deck specifically. The first thanks I'd like to give to is the team I play with, Team X3 and Team Tempo. When we started, they passed me a bunch of cards to get this deck going on the first tournament I ever went to, and I'd like to thank all of them for helping me with that. Then, I'd like to thank GGYGO and his videos. They really gave me the competitive boost on where to stop the decks in this format and previous formats I've played. I will put a link to his channel below and join his Discord because there's a lot of helpful people in that channel. Next, I'd like to thank Hanko Chow and his articles for definitely giving me a ton of information on the competitive play of this deck, as well as giving me the double Dreaming Town combo, which has changed how I looked at the deck. This video is finally coming to an end, and I'm glad I could bore your ears off with my favorite birds. So, if you ended up liking this content, let us know, and we might make some more videos like this. If you want videos styled a little different way, just let us know. Give us your feedback, and we'll definitely try to tour these videos in that type of direction. That's it for all I've got. If you like the video and subscribe, it really helps us out a lot. Thank you.